I'm going to say it right now. I would very much like us to sell Rafael Leao if it means us getting Damsgaard. I feel like he's just more astute. He's 20, 21 years old. You're kind of getting the exact same profile as Leao, but maybe someone who's a bit more suited to Serie A. And if it means Rafael Leao going, I wish him all the best. I really do. I just kind of think that it's going the way that he's not suited to this league. Oh dear. Okay, guys. Look, we know why we're here. It's in the title of the video. You've just seen the clip of me and my horrendous take from June 2021, at the end of last season, before the season started. We're here to talk about Rafael Leao, and it's quite fitting. He's just scored his 10th goal this season in all competitions. He's just made his 100th appearance in a Milan shirt. And probably something at the time of me making that video you just saw, I didn't think it was going to happen, because I probably wanted to see him sold in the summer window, and my God, that would have been such a bad mistake. And this is officially, I got a lot of friends out there in the community who have been waiting for this video. This is officially the apology video to Rafael Leao. He's not, he's clearly not watching this video. If he did, he'd be laughing his ass off. But nonetheless, it is time to highlight the player who I think has been our best player this season. I think you can go down the lines of, there's a few players in this candidate, but for me, he's someone who's just exploded this season to another level. That's obviously down to the context of the video you just saw there. Me willing to give up on him at a young age, and after a couple of, 2 seasons of something I wasn't quite sure what I was seeing. And I think it's only right, not only for me to give that sort of apology video, but also to highlight the fact of how good he is this season compared to last season, and just highlighting how much of an asset he is to this side and Stefano Pioli, and also looking at the way Stefano Pioli has adapted himself into the formation and changes that he's made, internally as a player in this Milan side. Firstly, the apology. I'm sorry I got this one wrong. As a man, you can only admit when you've made a mistake with a certain take. I'm not going to go on a sort of poem there. That was pretty bad. Look, it was a horrendous take. I think in context, when you look back at how he was the first 2 seasons, you see a player that I think we all saw a player that we just didn't quite know where he fitted into the side. Played in a different amount of positions, false 9, a traditional left winger, a supporting striker, and also in a new league and a new country and all these sort of things. I think 100% I jumped the gun on this one. I think gave up on him too early. Maybe I just didn't like his attitude, and I think that's something also that has some sort of accuracies to it. I think players have alluded to this. Pioli's alluded to this. He's not. I think the energy that he was giving out last season, the season before, wasn't delivered in the right way. Not to say he's completely, had a rebellion, a change in his style of play. He's turned into like an Ante Rebic on the left wing, but more so that he's become much more smarter in the way he plays football, especially off the ball. Something we'll come on to in a bit, and something that even Stefano Pioli has mentioned. Well, we've seen it in the training session, and we'll come on to that shortly. So the context behind it, I think there is context there. Not a lot of fans, I think, in general, were happy with Leao, but myself giving up on the player so early in his career in general was something that, to be honest, if we made the decision this summer, we'd have 100% regretted it. And I'm happy we didn't, because obviously he's been fantastic this season. And it just goes to show you that you can't get everything always right, and sweeping statements isn't always the way forward. So Rafa, why am I making this video for you? Look, it's not just the amount of goals and assists that you've contributed so far this season, which has seen a massive improvement when you compare to the amount of games he's played so far. It's also, there's one thing I made a note of, is the games and the teams he's getting these goals and assists against. And it's easy to stack pad against weak teams and all this sort of stuff, but this hasn't been Rafael Leao this season. If we look at his stats so far this season, 27 games so far, 10 goals and 6 assists. Some of these goals come against Atletico Madrid. He's put 3 past Lazio, so they probably hate him by now, as much as they probably hate all Milan players and all Milan fans. Atalanta, who's gotten a goal against them, and he's gotten a goal against Roma. He's also got an assist along the way as well, one including against Liverpool and also against bigger sides as well. So like 16 goal contributions in 27 games. Last season, 7 goals, 6 assists. That's 13 goal contributions in 40 games. So obviously, numerically, statistically, he has seen a massive spike. But he had no goals against the traditional top Italian top 6 rivals that we go against. Your Lazio, Roma, Atalanta, Napoli, Inter, and Juventus. No goals against any of those sides. So his performances aren't just against, stats aren't just against weaker sides there. And I think that's something that can't go unnoticed. He is a big game player. He's someone that is stepping up. And as much as I love giving credit to players like Rebic last season for being that big game player, Rafa's now becoming that, especially in the absence of Rebic and the injuries he's had so far this season. So for me, statistically, that can't go under the radar. The way he's just stepped up against the big sides. And that comes down to his performances on the pitch, what he does off the ball, and the way he's sinking himself so far in this side and Stefano Pioli's setup. And I also found this quite interesting. And Milan Data put up this tweet at the start of the week, obviously after the Sampdoria game. And they compared Rafael Leao's stats after 25 rounds so far in the league this season and last season. He's got one less appearance. He's got a few more starts in his locker. Obviously, goals are there. But it's also the amount of shots in the match, and you see how much he's more involved into the attack and the style of play. Total shots, 56 this season compared to 28 last season. Chances created, 23 against 17 last season. And successful dribbles, 58 this season compared to 33 last season. This clearly shows that we're willing, not just as a side and not just as Stefano Pioli, we're willing to give him the keys to the attack. He is the guy who creates the most. He's not even just that, we're just facilitating him. He's the one that wants to get on the ball. He's daring enough to take it on and take it at the byline or just running to players into midfield. And we're going to talk about the way he plays, and it's so not just also unpredictable. A lot of his assets to his game is quite predictable, but the way he is built, the lean and the agile and the explosive physique that he has makes it so you might know what he's going to do, but you still can't stop it. And that's why he's so daring to do these dribbles. That's why his shooting has increased. His shot selection has increased so far this season. I do think that's probably one element that he can easily add to his locker as well, which is clinical finishing, because I feel like he should be on a few more goals this season than he is. But that will come with time. But yeah, when you look at these stats that he is involved so far with the chances created and the successful dribbles, it just goes to show you how much we are reliant on this player. Now, the stats don't come without the hard work. And the question is, look, why has he just had this massive upsurge in his form? And as much as I think it's down to the kid's body developing and becoming much more much more well built, all these things genetically he is increasing in, and that's obviously down to his work and obviously his work in training. I do feel like massive elements to his game improving has to come down to the way Stefano Pioli has probably gotten it into his head, how he should act off the ball, and also how he fits into the side. And it's probably more trust that Pioli has had to put into Leao, especially with Rebic being down, and knowing that, look, if we're going to need that one player to be that wild card, it's going to have to be Rafa. Look, I do feel like his positional play has increased a lot. He finds himself much more closer as well to the centre forward and less isolated out on the wing positions. But at the same time, he does have that freedom to play out on the left wing, knowing that if he gets a right back in isolation, he will completely burn them, and he makes difficult scenarios for these players to either take him down and maybe commit a penalty and such. And I just find as well that his intensity to the game has increased. When he's getting on the ball, he's less nonchalant. He's looking around. He's either going to make a nice a diagonal pass across the other side of the pitch, take on a few players. I just feel like when he gets on the ball right now, and you see that grin on his face, you just know he's going to do something. And I think it's incredible to see. You get excited, you get off your seat a little bit when you see him come on the ball, especially in that sort of final third of the pitch. He's incredible, really, when he comes alive, when he has that space to go into and completely burn defenders. I also put this clip up as well on my Twitter, and it was the Milan official YouTube channel. They did a mic'd up training session with Stefano Pioli, and there's this one bit I did a snippet clip of, and he's talking to Rafael Leao. And to quote, he says, "You don't need to run a lot, you need to run smart." And he tells Rafa about, in a traditional 90 minutes of football, how much possession of the ball will you have as an individual? And he says around a minute and a half, 2 minutes, around that sort of level. These are incredible things that you don't quite think about as a fan, and you don't quite pay attention to. When you just look at the stats and you just look at what certain players do when they're on the ball, you don't really time them or think how much involvement that they have. And we're quick to say, players ghost when they come off the ball and all these sort of things. And I thought it was just an incredible thing to say from Pioli, and it gives good perspective to Leao to know that when he has that time on the ball, show some importance on it. Show some encouragement. You are going to do something deadly, or create some opportunities, or take on players. Be brave, but also when you're not on the ball, be smart. Don't just run for the sake of running. And I think that's where we can get, even people like myself can get quite lost in what is the correct, pressure and intensity that a player should put on, especially in the Stefano Pioli side and their setup. I just don't want players running for the sake of it, but it needs to be the smart running. Especially someone like him. I think he is that wild card player who you don't want him to burn out quite, early on into a game. We have players for that, in my opinion. I think players like Salamakers, players in the midfield like Tonali, there's a reason why sometimes they don't last 90 minutes, because they go all out for like 60 or 70 minutes and then you take them off. Players like Macias. And I think Rafael Leao, I'd rather keep him on for 90 minutes because he's just going to create something any minute, of the game. And I think that comes down to, conserving energy, but in the right way, but also being around and being an option for the attack, option for the, comeback, and, whether it's zonal marking in defence. I feel like he's just intelligently increasing that asset of his game. And that's the thing as well. In my mind, I kind of maybe thought I wanted this guy to be like another Rebic, when he clones in positions. And looking back on it now, I think that's the wrong way to have it. You do want 2 players for every position, but you do want that sort of variety of what they can offer. It's like looking at the Brahim Diaz scenario. Who do we want to come in the attacking midfielder position? Hopefully we sign a player this summer. Do we want another Brahim Diaz? No, we don't. We want someone a bit more creative. And even if that's someone like Adley coming into the side, who's much more of a distribution-like player rather than a dribbler, maybe that's a good thing to have, because that gives us that variety of the game, depending on the opposition that we're playing against, if we have to change things up. And I think with Rafa and Rebic, 2 completely different players. Rebic is complete aggression. Obviously, his finishing is very, inconsistent and stuff like that. But with Rafa, I think you just know what you're going to get when he's on the ball. And they're just completely different players. And do I want another clone of Rebic? No, we don't. And, I think that's where it comes down to me apologising, the fact that I thought he was ever going to be that. I don't think he should be that. I think Rafa is brilliant for what he does. And we're now finally seeing what he can offer to this side. And even defences now in Serie A, and I think this is the important thing, defences now in Serie A, the opposition defences, they've had to react to this. They've completely had to react to this. They've had to do like low blocks, double up on him. He didn't, like I say, the Inter Milan game, for example, he barely got any space to manoeuvre because they were so worried about him. And this is something that, if you look to like last season, for example, the game when we beat Inter 2-1 towards the start of last season, he had that space to run into. Whereas now they wouldn't dare give him that space. So I think that's, if anything, is just alluding to the fact of how much he is progressing, and now he's so much an asset and a threat on our attack that they have to pinpoint him. And I think that's something that we've just not had for a while. So especially someone so young with all the potential ahead of them. I look back when I was in my sort of teenage years and looking at players like Pato and thinking that they are the next big thing, especially in our attack. I now look at Rafael Leao and I look at him and I see the sky's the limit, because he's got a great physique, a great footballing physique, rarely injured as well, which is incredible, something that like someone like Pato never had in their locker. And I just think, the way we evolve as a side, and recruitment's right throughout the rest of the side as well, and facilitate someone like him, what he needs to do is probably just add to these stats of what he's doing so far this season has been just, nothing short of fantastic. So that's it for today, guys. This is officially the Rafael Leao apology video, and also his video in general. I've loved him. I've loved what he's doing so far this season. I hope he can keep it up. He definitely is going to get over 20 goal contributions in my opinion. With the amount of games left, he's on 16 so far this season. Easily going to get over 20. I'm hoping he gets towards 25 and spearheads us towards a nice end of the season. Look, loving everything that Rafael Leao's doing, and focusing back onto the club. Look, what a week we've had. Beating Inter in the derby, battering Lazio in Coppa Italia, and obviously beating Sampdoria in the league. Next up, we got Salernitana, which is obviously an easy game on paper, but nonetheless, we have to go into it with the right intensity, the right commitment, and get the 3 points, and then move on to the next game. Because I think if we're going to do something in this league this season, we've got to take it a game at a time. Each game is as serious as the one that obviously preceded it, and the one that is coming next. We need to get these points on the board, and I'm sure Rafael Leao is probably going to get another goal and assist as well by next weekend. So until next time, guys, Forza Milan.